What's up, guys? In this video I want to talk about something that not many people probably think about, and that is the geometry of your gravel bike and why it sucks. Now, don't get me wrong, gravel bikes are awesome. They can take you places that no road bike can take you, also a lot faster than what most mountain bikes can take you places. But the problem is they don't have great handling, and it really stems back to the cyclocross days. And our original gravel bikes, that's what they were. They were cyclocross bikes that we would take them and, put some larger rubber on them and go hit some gravel roads. Now, there's so many genres of gravel bikes, it's really almost like just saying a bicycle geometry sucks. But with gravel bikes, obviously, it's a little different. But we're not focused on your bike packing gravel bikes or your kind of slower gravel bikes or more relaxed pace gravel bikes. What we're looking at is gravel bikes that really are supposed to be kind of a road bike and also a gravel bike. And we're going to talk about why they're not great. Now, obviously, some of these geometry changes, in my opinion, will benefit a bike packing rig as well. So to see where we are today with gravel bikes, you really have to look at cyclocross bikes, like I mentioned before, and then to look at the history of cyclocross bikes, which originally were just road bikes with larger tires on them, and to do these races through grass fields. And what manufacturers would do is all they would do was lengthen the chainstay. So you can see here this chainstay, what they would do is just push it back further, so that way you could put a larger tire in it without competing with the front derailleur and also the front chainring. So the problem with that is it just messes up all of the balance of the bike completely, especially if you keep your front the same size. Okay, you've heard manufacturers say this before when they're reviewing a gravel bike or talking about their gravel bikes, and they say, oh, we lengthened the chainstays, we've made them more stable, it's a stable bike for rough roads and things like that. The problem with that is if you lengthen your chainstays but don't change the front of the bike, you've caused more of an imbalance. What has happened now is you've put less weight on the rear of the bike and more weight on the front of the bike, and that doesn't necessarily add stability. Really what's adding stability is the wheelbase is longer. Okay, so you ask hey Billy, what is the solution for this? So the solution is actually a shorter chainstay, okay? And which I know doesn't sound right. But if you shorten the chainstay, all right, but then increase your front center, you keep the same wheelbase being longer, like the longer chainstays, but what you've done is you've shifted your rear wheel and your front wheel further this way, and you're taking the weight off of the front tire. When you have a lot of weight on the front tire, it causes the bike to handle very twitchy. So you're going to a turn, you hit any kind of bump, any kind of rocks or debris or anything like that. It slows you down a lot more if you have more weight on the front tire. So you want to have less weight on the front tire when you're hitting obstacles. Now, this really stems from mountain bike geometry and newer mountain bike geometries, because that's what they've done in mountain biking. They've shortened the chainstays, they've increased the front center, as they call it, to add stability to the bike while still making the bike handle very quickly and have plenty of agility. So I did a little test with two bikes that I have, and I had two scales, put the bikes on the scales, and I measured the amount of weight that was on the front tire and the amount of weight that was on the rear tire between both bikes. And I would try to sit in a neutral position on the bike, as neutral as possible, so we can measure how much more weight is on the front of a bike when it has longer chainstays and a shorter front end versus shorter chainstays and a longer front end. The two bikes that we're comparing is actually the Giant Contend AR, which I love that bike. It's in my opinion one of the best bikes out there, to a bike that I've actually designed. I call it the Blackwater 3-notch, and it's a titanium bike that I've built with this mindset of improving the geometry. Okay, so the 3-notch actually has really short chainstays. They're 395 millimeters, so they're actually about 10 millimeters shorter than a road bike. But the front of the bike is about 20 millimeter longer than your normal gravel bike. Okay, so once again, we've shifted that weight. The Contend AR is more like your traditional bike. It has, or gravel bike, it has about a 422 millimeter chainstays in the back, which is actually pretty short for most gravel bikes today, which are usually 425 to 430. And then the front of the bike is obviously a little shorter up front compared to the 3-notch. So let's look at those two bikes with the weight, see what the results were. I did several measurements when I was doing this. I did a lot of measurements, and I kind of threw out any kind of outliers or anything like that. But on average, the rear of the Contend was about 114 pounds on average on the rear wheel. The front wheel was 90.8 pounds roughly. All right, so 91 pounds. On the 3-notch, the average was actually 117 pounds on the rear. So the rear was a little bit heavier by about 3 pounds, three more pounds of pressure on it. And then on the front, it was 85 pounds. So we're looking almost 6 pounds less weight on that front tire. So, you know, because of that, now the front tire is not digging into sand, it's not getting tripped up over rocks or anything like that. And when I was on the bike, I could actually like lean forward and add, you know, 10 pounds to it. So, you know, you can really, your body weight is going to adjust how much pressure is on that tire. But with this geometry, you know, automatically about 6 pounds, you are unweighting the front tire. So this was done with an extra large frame, both frames extra large. So, you know, when you get to smaller bikes, that front end is going to be even closer and that rear end is going to be even further. So your balance is going to be larger when you go to smaller size bikes. So I see this being extremely beneficial for smaller riders to balance their bike so they don't have so much weight over the front tire. So like I said, 6 pounds less weight on the front tire. That's going to allow you to skip over sand better. When I ride the 3-notch over sand, I don't have to try to get back in the saddle like I do on most gravel bikes. The front end does not dig in, it doesn't stop. When I have to bunny hop any kind of obstacle like a log or stick or anything, very easy to get up over the obstacle. And in turns, it handles extremely well. It actually, like if I go through a turn, it starts drifting, I can control it. Where on a traditional gravel bike, the front wheel, it will wash out on me more so than on the 3-notch bike. Another issue that a lot of people will say, oh, well, short chainstays, you're going to lose traction on climbing. I've actually found that it's the opposite, because whenever you're climbing, especially if you stand up, you're shifting your weight really far forward on that bike. And the more, you know, the further back the wheel is from you when you're standing, the less weight is going to be over it. So if you have less weight on your rear wheel, it's going to, you know, basically lose traction and you're going to not be able to climb anymore. So essentially, what should give gravel bikes their stability is not a long chainstay. That should be the last thing that someone does. If you do add a long chainstay to a bike, you also should lengthen the front of the bike to balance it out. So, you know, what should add stability to a gravel bike is actually, yes, a longer wheelbase, but it should be shorter rear and a longer front. And then you use tires, larger tires, to add stability. So it should be a longer front center and larger tires to add stability to your gravel bike, not increasing the length of the chainstays. All right, guys, so tell me what you think. Do you think this is stupid, that it doesn't make any sense? Or do you think this is a great idea? Just let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and share it with any of your friends, and we'll see you in the next video.